Hello, hello. I am here to answer a quick question from Aida. And I'm so glad that you wrote me, Aida. You had a really, really good question. So I'm going to try and share it here. And I hope you can pop in and see this either live or as a recording later. So the question was this. As an ESL learner that has been speaking English for many years and is comfortable with the language, but still needs to grow more to get to the professional level, I would appreciate some pronunciation guidance. And so she says, there are many sounds in English that a Spanish speaker didn't grow up with at all, and it becomes hard to sound convincing or proficient if you can't pronounce them. A simple example is can and can't. And so she told, at this point, she mentioned something about another English teacher who comes on YouTube and does lots of pronunciation videos. So I am going to try and share with you a little about what you can do. And you said, Aida, maybe you feel like throwing us a hand on that regard. So I am going to try and throw a lifeline to you about pronunciation. But first, let me explain. Um, what I do is share tips on how to use practice to improve your English. So it's really important that you realize that if you can do some really focused practice on this, you're going to get better quite quickly, actually. And I'm going to share with you the focused practice. So what's happening is that you started learning English probably at quite an early age, but you were probably first taught English in Spanish. You may have had someone tell you, okay, so the English word for hola is hello, or something to that effect. So immediately you started connecting your English and Spanish in your mind. Um, and that's fine when you're first learning, but you want to be really, really proficient. And if you want to be completely proficient in Spanish, no, in English, then what you're going to have to do is completely disconnect these. What happens is, um, especially when you're dealing with words like can and can't, where when we say the words separately, we say can and can't. That's what it sounds like you need to say. But when you put it in a sentence, it becomes something completely different. I don't say I can play the violin. I say I can play the violin. You hear that? It's not can, it's actually can. I can play. I can play, as opposed to I can't play the piano. Yeah, I can't. So we pronounce that one can't, but we pronounce can as can because it is not stressed in the sentence. But this is a lot to remember when you're trying to speak. You can learn all of the pronunciation rules, and they're not going to help you when you're speaking because you don't have time to go through the rules in your head. So, what I like to do is have you recreate a new foundation for your English. So you've got this house of English that you've built over years. You have lots of vocabulary. You have lots of grammar. You have a lot of English that you've built up over the years. The problem is that the foundation that you built this English house on is actually Spanish. When we first learn a language, we learn the music of that language. We learn how the language sounds overall. And we learn this as babies. In fact, they've done studies. Babies from different language backgrounds come out crying in the with some of the intonation of the language that the mother speaks, which is fascinating. You've already started learning your foundation for language in the womb. And so this idea of the each language having some kind of music is really important because that's what determines what your accent will be like. If you have the music of English in your mind when you speak, then the words, the lyrics that you put in there will sound much more like English than if you speak English words with the music of Spanish, which is what you're doing. It's the same with pronunciation. If you can get a foundation in your mind of the sound of English, and I know you've been living in English speaking countries for years, you've been speaking English for decades, and still this is a problem because there's something very simple that you need to do. In my free practice guide that I linked to in my message to Aida, but here it is up on the screen. I have 4 practice activities that you can use to help to improve your English with just 5 minutes a day for each of the activities. But the 2 that I want you to focus on, Aida, are the listening and repeating exercise and the talking to yourself. So, back to this idea of a foundation. When you listen and try to repeat, and I don't mean repeating the words, I mean literally listening to a podcast of native English speakers talking and switch off your willingness or switch off trying to understand. So you're not listening for understanding. You are listening for the music of the speakers. You want to hear what does their how would they sound if I were listening through a wall and I couldn't hear the words? Okay, because English has a specific music. And of course, different types of English have different music. Um, and to show you what I mean, I can imitate the music of Italian, for example. Italian goes la da 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 da. That's the music of Italian. If you take any Italian sentence and throw it into that kind of music, it sounds much more Italian than if you just read the sentence how you would normally read it. And so, what I want you to do is to start copying podcasts. Use podcasts where people are talking naturally to each other and start copying not the words that they're saying, but the way that they say the words. And you want to copy right behind them so you don't have time to think about what they're saying. You literally just make the noises that they're making. When you download my practice guide, I actually have a link to me doing this in Danish so you can see what I'm talking about. And if you have any more questions about it, go ahead and drop me a message or send me an email and I can arrange a call with you and we can talk about it some more. But all you need to do is start this copying, listening, and repeating. And then after you've done this for a couple of weeks, you'll have the sound in your mind because you've been copying it. It's almost like learning the lyrics to or learning the music for a song. And then if you take a book and start reading out loud, but don't read it how you would normally read it like the podcaster that you've been copying. And immediately, as long as you've been copying that podcaster for, days in a row, you'll have it in your mind and immediately your English will sound more native like. All of these little words that are difficult to pronounce will become much easier because you're copying someone who's doing it the way you want to do it. And so many things change when you do this. So I want you to try it. I want you to try it for 2 weeks, Aida. And anyone else who's listening and has this challenge, try it for 2 weeks and see what happens. Get back to me and let me know how it's going. Try practicing every day for 2 weeks, copying a podcast. The other practice activity that I'm telling you to try is to talk to yourself. So you're copying this podcast, and then as soon as you finish, so you do that for like 5 minutes, not copying the words, just copying the sounds. So it may actually sound like, yeah. So, I mean, we're not talking about copying words. After you've done that, um, shut off the podcast and try talking to yourself like the podcaster. Okay. Imagine you're not you. Copy the podcaster. Try and say something the way that they say it. So you could talk about what you're doing for the rest of the day, but do it as if you were them. I had a student 2 years ago who had the same problem as you, and she is also Spanish. And she said that, oh my gosh, sometimes when I speak English, people say, oh, I'm sorry, I don't speak Spanish. Her Spanish accent was really, really thick. Her English was really good, her level of English, but her accent was so strong, people didn't really understand her. And so I had her do these 4 practice activities. She was doing all 4. And after 30 days, I met with her again. And she said, oh my gosh, this is unbelievable. Because I told her she was copying the Oprah Winfrey podcast. And I said to her, okay, tell me about your day, but tell me as if you're Oprah Winfrey. And all of a sudden, she did this. She relaxed, she sat back, and she started talking. And her Spanish accent was almost gone. It was unbelievable. This has happened with many of my students. So I want you to give it a try and try these practice activities. You're going to start seeing a change after a week or two. And within a month of practicing like this, you're going to see a huge difference in your English. But only if you do it. So yeah, if there's anyone, I see there's someone who's popped in on the live, so you can go ahead and write in the comments so I know who it is. Yeah, but that's pretty much all I have to say. Unless there's a question, you can write in the comments. And I'm gonna stop this, and I'm gonna share this with you, Aida. And I wish you the best. I'm also putting it in my YouTube channel. So, if you have anyone, if you know of anyone else with this problem or question, go ahead and send them over there. I will talk to you all later, and take care and have a wonderful day. I'll be on tomorrow, Wednesday, for a lightning lesson at 11 a.m. Denmark time. So take care.